Hello everyone, we have the meta snapshot for patch 12.20 and there are a few surprises for you guys in store. We're going to go over how to play every single one of these compositions as well as go over the tier list, so definitely stick around if you want to know how to play each of the best comps in TFT right now. So in the S tier we have Dragons, Jade, Olaf Reroll, we have the new Kaisa Reroll build, Mirage Daeja, Karma Reroll, and Yone, and then in the A tier Dragonmancer Lee Sin, Guild Zippy, Xayah, Darkflight Rengar, Grave Seraphine, Lagoon, Mage Nomsy, Whispers, and Build Different. And then in the B tier, Astral, Darkflight Cannoneer, and Graves Nilah. Let's get into how to play everything starting from the top. So some of the comps we've gone over a lot already, so I'll be brief with them, but some of the other ones are new, so we'll spend more time on those. So for the only Dragons comp, this is 4 Dragons plus Recon. We're going to want to have a way to get to the late game. So this is a very late game centric comp. It's probably like the strongest late game boards you can have, and you need to get a little lucky to get this, so do not go for this every game. And you need good econ augments, high HP, and lots of gold in order to play this, and have like a pretty good early to mid game as well, because you just need to fast 9 to get this, roll down, hit most of the stuff, and be good to go from there. But again, you guys have already heard this one so many times. Let's go on into the next build, which is the Jade Carry, and this is a Soy'fen comp that people have been talking about. It's just really strong just because dragons are strong, and both Xiaoyu and Soy'fen use the same items. So whoever you 2-star first, you're going to be able to get a big power spike, throw all your items on them, and just have them carry you through like stage 4. And then eventually in stage 5 or 6, you get the other person to 2-star, and then you're good to go from there. That's really why this is so strong, because a lot of comps, they revolve around one carry. And if you don't hit that carry 2-star, it's less consistent. So this is probably the most consistent comp of the S tier right now. A lot of people wonder why comps are S tier. They're either super strong, like the Dragon comp, or they are very consistent, like the Soy'fen comp. Nevertheless, we have a simple guide on how to play each and every one of these. You could catch this on my website at bunnymuffins.lol/meta. And it goes through stuff like the early game. It's like start with Wukong or Nidalee as your item holders, playing 3 Jade with Jax plus Gnar. And then if your Nidalee is your item holder, you should slot in Astrals as well for econ boost. You should be doing that for most of the comps right now. Just have Astrals in the early game to really pump up your economy. After that, we tell you what to put in at level 6, when to go level 7, at level 8, what to do. Pretty much like step by step for most of these compositions, item breakdowns, for like all the main people, and then like the core units. Sometimes we have augment recommendations, sometimes we don't if it's not like that critical to a comp, and then sometimes some counters as well if you need help dealing with like certain builds. Onto the next build. This is the one I'm most excited for. We're going to spend a little more time on this because Kaisa Reroll is finally a thing, and the reason why is because I actually was wrong about this in the patch preview. I said like, oh, like maybe Kaisa is not actually going to be a thing. Very little, but I forgot that Zach's played in the Kaisa comp. So Zach got huge buffs, like ginormous buffs. Zach is like very good tank right now because he essentially like doubled one of his abilities effects. And this is a comp coming from China, and you combine Dragonmancer with Lagoons in order to build a comp around Kaisa at level 6. You don't really need anything more, but if you do get there, because you do have a little less economy in this build because you're re-rolling for a 3-star 2-cost unit, you're just going to add in extra units that either give your team more synergy, such as like more Dragonmancers or Lagoons, or just random good legendaries to really round out your comp. But right now, like, yeah, Zach is a really good solo frontline, and yeah, he's going to give you a lot of power later on in the game. So for Kaisa, the way you need to play her is you just really need Kaisa and Zach 3. It's a really easy comp, but in the early game, Talia and Karma are going to be your item holders unless you have an early Kaisa. And the way you play this is just re-roll her. You go to level 6, and on 3-2, you roll down for a stable board. That's normally Kaisa and Zach 2. And then from there, econ back up to 50 gold, and then slow roll for Kaisa and Zach 3-star. You don't really care about anyone else, so don't like try to 3-star everyone. After you hit Kaisa and Zach 3-star, just push for more levels, add more Dragonmancers, things of that nature. And then items we have here. IEJG is preferred, and then after that, more AP from Archangels is good, Giant Slayer, Blue Buff, Spirit Shojin, Morellonomicon, anything that increases their damage is going to be great after the first 2. And then pretty much for any Dragonmancer comp, IEJG is always going to be the best 2 items because you get so much AP from the Dragonmancer trait already. Items for Zach: Warmog, Sunfire Cape, Stoneplate, Dragon's Claw, Bramble Vest. All the solo frontline tank items work on him. And then for everyone else, like utility, you have Chalices, Ionic Spark, Static Shiv, ZZ Rot Portal. Even like a Protector's Vow can do pretty good work because it gives units around that unit more resistances. So anything that can support your team, that's going to be every other item down here. Good augments for this is Dragonmancer Conference, Featherweights, Cybernetic Uplink, Celestial Blessing, Preparation, and Blue Battery. And special shout out to Preparation. A lot of people don't like that augment, but for rerolls, it is probably the best augment ever because you get so much value from it. You're always going to get full stacks from it, so it's going to be really good, especially on reroll comps. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I wish there was a longer thing to explain here because it's a newer comp, but it's just a reroll at level 6. So you just you just need to hit the units. Onto the next build. We're more familiar with this one. This is a Karma reroll. And yeah, barely nerfed this patch, and it's still very strong, and people are forcing this, hard forcing this at high elo, low elo, every elo in between. And yeah, you just go level 5, reroll for Karma 3-star, and yeah, that's pretty much all there is. Very similar to the previous comp, except you do it at different levels. I actually have a leveling guide. If you scroll all the way up and click leveling over here, and then we have the standard leveling. We have the 1-cost reroll, which is what the Karma is, and then we have the 2-cost reroll leveling pattern. So just refer to those whenever you are like lost or something, you know. Again, all on the website, bunnymuffins.lol. And then we're going to scroll down back to, where were we? Yone Reroll. So I was hesitant on putting this onto the meta snapshot, but some people were asking for it last week. I normally don't include spatula comps unless it's like really meta defining. But I guess this comp has picked up a little more in popularity since it first started. A couple more people are playing it. It's not really that forcible. You have to get either Swiftshot Emblem or Scope Weapons 2. Nope, not Scope Weapons 1. Scope Weapons 2 only. Scope Weapons 1 is like a fake augment. Only go for the Prismatic one. But yeah, it's pretty solid. It's a reroll comp. The difference between this reroll and other rerolls is that you can go for like 3-star everything you see here almost, because they are all 1 and 2 cost units for the most part, and you just, all of them play a role, you know. In the other comps, like, you don't really care about everyone else. So like in the Karma reroll, like you really just care about Karma. Everyone else could be like bad stars. Oh, I just realized I skipped over Darkflight Rengar. We'll go over that after the Yone reroll comp. But yeah, so you need like the long range, but it's really inconsistent. So this one's like borderline S tier, so it's like S- right now, because again, it's not as consistent as everything else, because you can't go for it unless you get one of these 2 requirements. And yeah, the good news is that it's pretty easy. You just Astral Lagoon until you hit level 6, and then at 3-2 at level 6 you roll down until you get Yone 2. And again, we note here, like, do not force this comp unless you have a Spatula, the Swiftshot Emblem, or Scope Weapons 2. But yeah, on level 6, typically at 3-2, you could roll down for Yone 2 if you need to stabilize, or just slow roll, and you just rinse and repeat the slow rolling until you get 3-star Yone, and that's pretty much all there is to it. Let's get back up to the Darkflight comp. I don't know why I skipped this, but this is still a very decent comp right now. It got nerfed a little bit because Rengar got touched a bit, but it's still pretty solid overall. IE Hodge on Rengar. Again, like, Hodge is a great healing item whenever you have IE. And Swain, just the front man. He's going to be tanking everything up. You could throw 3 items on him as well, because he doesn't really need the Zeke's Herald up front. So it depends what items you have on your sacrifice unit. For example, if you have a Force of Nature on your sacrifice unit, then you really don't need a 3rd item on any of your Darkflight units, because you get the extra Darkflight Essence. Essence is probably the best thing to sacrifice, but you just don't get it every game. So if you have to, you settle for a Zeke's. Keep in mind, like, we have all the item recommendations down here. There are a lot of things you could do with these 2 comps, because items are like pretty important in TFT, but some comps, they could kind of use a variety of things, and this is definitely one of those comps. Onto the next build, we have Olaf Scalescorn Whispers. So this one, not too much has changed. The only thing that this comp struggles with sometimes is, like, it's hard to hit Pantheon 2 and Soy'fen 2 because they're just really contested right now, because everyone playing Soy'fen are going to be stealing these 2 units. But the main focus is on Olaf 3-star. So we have like the quick guide here. You slow roll at level 7 for Olaf 3. Sometimes you could stabilize earlier if you want to, but you also have to keep in mind there are a lot of different variations to this build. Right here we have the 4 Scalescorn version, with like 4 Whisper, but there are a ton of different things you could play. You could play 3 Mage, you could play 4 Warrior, a lot of different things work, just depends what units you're hitting. So if you hit like an early Yasuo, you could look into playing the 4 Warrior comp. Onto the next build, we have Mirage. It's another tried and true comp. Right now, like the OPs, I'd say like most consistent S tier comps are going to be any of the 7-cost dragons. So Daeja, Xiaoyu, and Soy'fen builds. Those are going to be like your bread and butters of this patch. If you're like not playing them most games, like I'd recommend trying to play them a little more than you would be regularly, because these 2 units just stabilize so hard. They allow you to go into super late game comps. They're just like solid in the mid game, pretty easy to hit. And just because this comp is a little lower on the tier list than all the other S tiers right now, doesn't mean it is bad, because again, you could use this build to pivot into the dragon comp in the super late game, or just like add in a bunch of random legendary units, because a lot of units are flexible here. So it's a good comp to like transition from your early game into, and also to transition into something even stronger and cap out super late. But that's it for the S tiers. Onto the A tiers, we have Zippy Carry, kind of like a transition comp into the late game Xayah build. Pretty solid overall though. It's just like a mid game power spike comp that you could kind of play, and that's pretty much all there is to it. That's why it's in the A tier. It's not going to completely dominate anything, but it's just overall pretty solid if you get it. So let's say you're building some Soy'fen items, like you use the Titan's Resolve, you use the Bloodthirster, you can use the IE on those comps, but you get like a 2-star Zippy for free. You might as well play it and just use it to save a lot of HP, play the Xayah comp, or just like use it to pivot into the next build. So this build is always going to be close to the Xayah Ragewing or Guild Xayah build. Guild did get nerfed a bit, so that's why this comp's in the A tier. It's still pretty strong, but just not as good as it was before. The main reason, again, is like, I mean, your main synergy got nerfed, right? Guild got nerfed in multiple ways, especially the attack speed on Twitch, which is like what Xayah likes the most. So it's just not going to have as much power. You still play it the same way. It's still strong if you hit like a 2-star Shyvana, but you're going to have to hit a 2-star Shyvana. On to the next build, we have Graves Seraphine with Pantheon, and overall, like, this build remained relatively untouched. So they were nerfed like a couple patches ago, but I think they dodged the nerf hammer this patch. They already nerfed it so much. So when you get 3-star Seraphine, you can definitely win a lot of games. It's just really hard to get because you're looking for a bunch of other 4-cost units such as Graves and Pantheon as your main dudes. So you don't really like reroll for Seraphine all the time. You only do it if you get a lot of copies of her. This is also a really good comp if you get the right augments. So down here, Better Together, amazing in this comp. First Age Kit, another great item to pair with this. But you really just need a Morel and Namicon to start off your game. Drop that on Seraphine and you're pretty much good to go from there. Onto the next build, we have Lagoon, Soam, and Nilah. Soam did get nerfed a little bit, I believe, in the last patch, but it's still playable in the A tier, just not as good as it was before. Not really too much else to say here. You drop in Nilah to finish off a lot of the units Soam brings to really low health that he can't kill. Tank lines is going to be like Zyra portals. Zoe going to be a great late game addition to really round out your team. If you get a bunch of mage augments or any trait augments, you could go up to 5 mages and drop like some of the units instead if you need to like fit it. But overall, pretty good build. We have the Lagoon table down here in case you forget what loot drops at each interval. But yeah, pretty solid comp. Blue buff Morello going to be the biggest selling point here, but we've already went over this comp, so we'll go on to the next one. So next one we have up is Mage Nomsy. Still forceable right now. They did buff the other Nomsys, and I think Mage Nomsy was nerfed slightly. But I still think Mage Nomsy is the most consistent Nomsy build right now. No one's really found the right way to play like Cannoneer Nomsy or Evoker Nomsy. I've tried Evoker Nomsy. I even put a Mage cap on my Evoker Nomsy. Still wasn't that great. So you really just need the Mage Nomsy. Everything else is like pretty garbage. I guess it makes sense because it is like a caster at the end of the day, and Mage is the best trade for casting units. Overall, like just Astral early game or Lagoon early game, just for a lot of econ, and then use Lux as your item holder, and then once you find Nomsy, you transition into the Nomsy comp as you see up here, and pretty much just go from there. But onto the next build, we have the Whispers build. I don't really know why you'd be playing this because the Soy'fen comp is super similar and just much better. But if you get like a bunch of Zyras, if you get like a free 2-star Pantheon, go ahead and play this. But Pantheon's really contested right now. Like so many comps use him because everyone's splashing in Whispers. but the extra Whisper unit that you always run is always going to be a Pantheon. So it's a little hard to just like play this comp outright. Just make sure you're scouting or you have like the right augments or something before you really go for the Pantheon build. Next build, we have Build Different. Not much to say here. Just get the Build Different augment, figure out which units you're going to use as your carries, itemize for that, play duplicates, try to get Double Trouble in there maybe. And you can check out some gameplay here. It's on the website. It's also like, we'll leave a card up here for you guys to check out where I play 3 different games of Build Different from like low diamond to masters, just so you guys can see how it plays out in action at a bunch of different ratings. Onto the B tier, we have Lee Sin. Lee Sin dropped a bit. He's a little inconsistent now because stabilizing him is a little harder than before. So Lee Sin was great when 2-star Lee Sin pretty much like just solidified your board, but there are a lot of other comps right now that just really take it out in like stage 4. So unless you hit the 3-star Lee Sin really early in like stage 5, it's a bit of a struggle with this comp because you look at some of the top builds right now, it's like the Jade build, the Olaf build, Kaisa if they hit, or Karma if they hit early on, they're just going to wipe you out. So you really want to be careful when playing this. Like make sure you actually have a lot of Lee Sins and only play this if you know you can get Lee Sin 3-star, because 2-star Lee Sin not good enough to stabilize for like a top 4 or something. You really need that 3-star in order to shine. If you do have the right augments with a 3-star Lee Sin though, it's pretty much an auto win. Like if you get like Axiom Arc Thrill the Hunt, for example, on 3-star Lee Sin, like you pretty much just win. There's not too much else to say about that. But onto the next build, we have Astral Mages. Yeah, like I think Lux got buffed in the recent patch, but it wasn't by much. I think they're purposely not making Astral Mages like a really good comp, because if it was really good, you'd be able to get to Aurelion Soul too easily, and then Aurelion Soul would carry too hard after that. So I think they're just like using that to keep this in check by making the regular Astral Mage comp like slightly weaker than it should be, in my opinion. Again, we have the loot tables down here. You just reroll for Lux at level 6. And yeah, you just abuse the Astral Orbs and try to use that as like your pseudo interest from like getting more gold every round. Graves Nilah, this is a flex build. Again, like I've explained this before, they don't really like the flex playstyle because it's not very intuitive to beginners. And yeah, they have outright said that. That's why I'm repeating it here. But in case you guys missed that or like don't believe me, like I'm not making this up. Apparently, like going for high synergies, so like vertical traits. Let's say you're playing like a Graves build and you're like, oh, I could get to like 6 Tempest, 6 Cannoneer. They want you to feel good about doing that. They don't want you to be like, oh, let me add in like 2 Mystic randomly. Like it's not fun to do that. So that's like their explanation, which does make sense. Because let's say you are 3 out of 4 Cannoneer. You need to add 1 more in or take the 3rd Cannoneer out. They preferred if you added in the Cannoneer instead of taking 2 units out to add in a random synergy, if Graves is your main carry. And since this comp is called the Graves Nilah comp, Graves would be your carry here. It does make sense. I do agree with them there. I just wish that there were some more splashable units that like didn't have to revolve around some vertical synergy. Very few of them exist now. But if you guys remember previous sets, I remember like Jhin in like one set, I forget which one. Maybe it was set 5 or 4. Maybe it was 6. I forget when Jhin was even a thing, but he was in a couple sets in the past. There are some comps where you'd run like 2 Chrono and 1 Sniper. You wouldn't even have Sniper synergy active in a lot of like S tier comps with Jhin, because like you just didn't need it because you just ran a bunch of different good units and you were just pretty solid from there. And it's not even because Sniper was bad, you just prefer other units that provided something like CC or like something like Mystic to make the rest of your team a bit tankier. But that really just doesn't exist anymore. And this is just why this comp is kind of in the graveyard in the B tier right now. Darkflight Cannoneer, this comp got nerfed too much, don't really need to pay attention to this. But if you get like a ton of Aphelioses and you have double trouble and you're like, I have the Zeeks already, I'm going for the Rengar comp, but I'm not hitting Rengars, I'm only hitting Aphelioses. It's still playable, just not that great. But yeah, that's pretty much it for that. As for item starts, just start with whatever comps you're going for, or like whatever items are good for comps you're going for. So if you are like a AD player, start with Sword and Bow. If you really like playing like the Jade Soy'fen comp, which I think you guys should be playing that comp a lot this patch, Sword's going to be the way to go. If you want to do some of like the wacky reroll builds with like Kaisa or Karma, maybe get a glove if you want to go for the critical strike, i.e. JG build. Let's see what else we have. Like AP, that's really just like the Lagoon comp, kind of the Karma comp, and kind of the Kaisa comp. You could play Daeja with AP as well, but that could be good too. Boa is good for like the Yone reroll, Olaf reroll, Mirage to a certain extent. Defensive items work in like almost every build, but it depends which one. Like if you go for Chain Vest, you could build like Edge of Knights for Jade or Negatron for Bloodthirster for Jade. But if you get like a belt, it's not really that useful in that comp, but belt is useful in stuff like building a Morello Nomicon for your Kaisa, building like a Zeke's Herald for some of those like Zeke's comps like Grave Seraphine. So a lot of different options you have. You just need to know which items open up which comps, and maybe I should make like a video on that in the future. So if you are interested in stuff like that, subscribe below if you have not already. But overall, I'd say like this patch is pretty cool because I've been waiting to play Kaisa Reroll since the start of the set. In fact, my first couple games when the set came out were Kaisa Reroll comps, but now it's finally viable. So I'll be playing that hopefully when I like get on TFT. But let me know your thoughts on what you think are the best comps down below. Are there ones I missed? Are there ones that you think should be higher or lower? Always open for discussion there. And if you guys are interested in talking about TFT even more, I do have a Discord channel, discord.gg/bunnymuffins, that you can join and chat with all the other viewers in there. But that's going to be it from me. Don't forget to check out the website, bunnymuffins.lol/meta, if you want like more info on everything we just went over. But I'll see you all in my next video.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to share and subscribe, and of course smash that like button. Each like is an LP I gain before the next video.